So our next speaker is Rishikesh Kulkarni. He's a associate director of technology SRE at ViewClip. He's a passionate about making complex design with simple and reliable solutions. He's a technology and platform agnostic and doesn't believe in limiting himself to just a few. He started his career in 2006 with a media company where he was responsible for introducing new technologies and driving a team for rapid delivery. He never limits his role to just development or operations, but loves exploring everything in tech space. He believes that SRE principle will revolutionize the way classic operation driven organizations think. Over to you, Rishikesh. Let me change the host to you. Just
Thanks,
give me a
Chinmay.
second.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just putting into a presentation mode. Sorry, guys. Uh, Hope you guys see my screen. Chinmay?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chinmay, for introducing me. Hey, guys. My name is Rishikesh Kulkarni. I'm working with a ViewClip. Today, I'm going to discuss about the microservice monitoring with the anomaly detection with the AutoML. So, when we are talking about the alerts and monitoring, the first thing which comes in our mind, what type of alerting which we want to do, right? What kind of alerts we want to have, how many false alerts I could get. I mean, there are a lot of stuff which we experienced in past, where a lot of false alerts are actually deprioritizing a lot of alerts and monitoring work. So how we can go about it? Sorry. So when we are saying when we in a traditional system, when we are saying we want to have the complete alerts and monitoring, how the thought process works and what are the limitations with those particular thought process, and when we are talking about the microservice level alerts and monitoring, how things has to be done. So agenda over here is first we are going to talk about the traditional thought process about the alerts and monitoring and the limitations, then the anomaly detection process which we introduced, I think a year back in our company, and then the extracting features from the anomaly for the machine learning. When we say what is the traditional thought process when we want to set up alert and the alerts and monitoring for the platform or for the entire system, right? First thing which comes is set up a monitoring every corner of the system. So every corner of the system you just had all put all your alerts so that you feel that your systems are now reliable and getting monitored, and I'll have the alerts, right? This this thing, like what approach we take is we put the alerts on the CPU, we put the alerts on the disk, we put the alerts on the memory, network, latency, and the error. And from these particular alerts, we come to the conclusion that our systems are reliable. But what happens, right? I mean, with this particular approach is good when you have a very simple system. Like you have a firewall, the incoming traffic which comes on the load balancer balance this particular on the service one, two, and three, and then these services are talking to one of the data layer which is the DB and cache. You put alerts on load balancer, service one, service two, service three, then the database and the caching all works fine, right? It is better when you have a more number of services where you have a one layer which is like a BFF layer which is talking to the outside I mean to the consumers, and then you have middle layers and which the middle layers which are going to talk to databases, caches, and queues. It's okay to have such kind of systems, such kind of alerts and monitoring approach to these kind of stuff. But what happens when this particular design becomes a more complex? Like this, you have a multiple load balancer, you have a first layer of services, then middle layer of services, then you have a lower layer of services, and then there are the databases, caches, and queues, and there are pipelines which are there So you have a lot of processes internally which is running, and you have a lot of elements which you need to monitor. So what happens with this particular one is, let's see. So let's take this as a mock design, right? For example, because of some issue, there you see there the P node is going down. Now, if the P node is going down, it is going to hamper a J node. Now, because the J is getting called by E service, you have a issue on the E. Now, because of E, you have a issue on B, and on the after B, you have a issue on A. Now let's take with the traditional approach where you are saying I have put alerts on all the services. What is going to happen? You have an alert on P, you have alert on J, you have an alert on E, and then you have an alert on B and A. Now, when you're saying maybe these are the 15, 16 microservices, when you say 100 plus microservices, in this particular situation, you will definitely have a 10 to 12 alerts. And the person who is actually going to is on call and looking at this particular service, he needs to know which service is calling which service, and because of that the particular service may be down. Then taking and doing that particular kind of debugging is going to be a more panic situation. So we want to get out of this particular panic situation. How we can get out of this one? So we are going to talk about the approach where we will not have a multiple alerts because of the one service going down. We'll have a specific alert with the actual detection of because of which particular service. So few limitations with this particular approach, right? And when we are saying that the few limitations is basically when I'm talking about the traditional microservice, it does not mean that those were the bad microservice. Sorry, the traditional monitoring. Those are not a bad monitoring, but those monitorings has been in place when we had a service-based architecture or the monolithic architecture. But now, since being the microservice architecture, this approach has coming up with the some of the limitations. So one of them is adding a threshold only based on the assumption. So everyone comes up with their own service and they assume that my microservice may have this kind of threshold in latency, this kind of threshold in error. Then need to change the threshold based on the experience. Now, as you move with that particular service on the production, you realize that okay, if I have a 0.5% of the percent of the error, it's okay. It's not going to hamper a consumer. The latency, if it goes from 50 millisecond to 100 millisecond, it's okay. But previously, I have put a threshold on 75 ms. Now I'm start getting the alert, but I see that on my app or on my main product, it's not going to give. It's not basically hampering the complete user experience. So I don't want to keep the threshold 75. Let me put it 150. So I keep changing those particular thresholds. It's okay to change the threshold for a one service, two service, three service. But what about 100 plus microservices? It's going to be a mess when you keep changing those particular thresholds, and somebody put a threshold very high and you actually have a problem, and you are not getting those particular alerts. So it becomes a false negative. Sorry, true negative. And because of that, you may have the incident and you're not even intimated for this one. Another one, basically a false alert since the threshold takes a time to adjust. So uh, I keep changing those particular threshold, but if I'm till the time I'm getting the correct threshold, I'm keep getting the false alerts. And the manual intervention increases with the number of microservices. As I mentioned, now you have a 10 microservices. Now you become with a 20 microservices, 50 microservices, 100 plus microservices. To do this kind of work, you need to actually add a resources in your team. That should not be the case, which we want. So let's say what is our goal with this particular approach? False, less false positive alerts, less manual efforts to setting up these particular alerts, no static thresholding required. So I don't want to keep the static thresholding when a new service is getting added. I'm going to put a specific threshold for that. I don't want to do that. And over the time, alert system should learn based on the previous alerts within the organization. So if the alerts are coming, right, the feedback of that particular alert should go back to the machine learning, and machine learning should start, and that particular model should start learning the feature list of that particular alert, and based on that, it should basically give some kind of weightages to the alerts which are coming in future. So the new approach towards the alerts and the monitoring. First one, alerts needs to be set up on the symptoms at a consumer level, interactive services and the metrics. So this is one of the thing which in which the SRE SRE one of the SRE feature comes in is we don't want to put the alerts on each and every services. We want to put the alert on the consumer driven metrics. For example, the services which are getting directly interacted with the services with the consumers, which is mainly a BFA player, or the metrics, business metrics, which are going to directly impact the consumer, like your subscriptions, your transaction latency, actual transaction latency, or some kind of backend jobs which are actually going to change the behavior, consumer experience on the app. So those kind of processes needs to be alert. I mean the metrics for those particular services needs to be monitored. If the anomaly occurs, it should correlate this and all the dependent service systems and services. So for example, if my latency is happening on A service, and A is calling B is calling C, and C is calling D, and I want to check whether the latency on A has increased because of the B and C and D, or is only because of the there was a latency only on B. So I want to check those particular latencies, and I want to correlate those anomalies so that it will be easier to just filter out the services which has the anomaly, and I will be able to take the actions over there. If anomaly is false, this is definitely possible, right? So anomaly algorithm has to learn itself. So if the anomaly is false, the feedback needs to go back to the ML model to avoid the false positives over the time. So how to go ahead about this? So two of the anomaly algorithms which we worked upon. So there are a few other algorithms we worked upon, but those didn't work for us. But the exponential average and derivative detector, these are the uh, two algorithms which we worked upon. So these algorithms are basically it takes the time series. These algorithms requires the time series at the input, and is basically it detects if the data contains anomaly, right? And if that particular data contains the anomaly, hey guys, can you hear me? I see some of the connection. Hello, hello.
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
There is a little bit background noise, I guess.
Oh, sorry. One second. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry guys. So these are the two algorithms which we looked upon. Uh, these algorithms require the inputs as a time series. Then it detects if the data contains any anomaly. So for example, if there are any spikes, if there are any dips in those particular anomaly, it is sudden changes which are there in that particular time series, it will find that out, and it gives back the time window where the anomalies happened. So is it happening from which time to which time is that particular anomaly is happening? It gives all those particular points so that you can detect. So for example, in our case, we take the time series for the last 6 hours, and we check whether the anomalies which this particular time series giving, is it within last 30 minutes or not. And score indicates how the severe the anomaly and compares to the other time series. So one other thing which we talked about is the correlating different time series. So we are basically correlating those particular time series. So let's take a same example, right? So in previous one we talked about is, if we have the anomaly on on P, then it's if we have any issue on P, it is J service is going to get hampered, then the E is going to get hampered, and B is going to get hampered, and A is going to get hampered, and we'll have all the 5 alerts, maybe 5 into 2, because we have a memory alert, CPU alert, disk alert, or something. We may have a 10, 12 alerts with this particular scenario. With this new approach, the alerts, the anomaly is going to get, if the detected on A. So let's say on the A, the anomaly is detected. That anomaly is going to check what all the dependent services for A. It is D, C, and B. So these are the 3 services. Now it is going to check for D. There is an anomaly occur on A. On D, there is no correlation happen. On a C, there is no correlation happen. But on a B, the correlation happen. So B is the one of the culprit. But is there any other services depends on the B? So yes, G, F, and E. So there is no correlation on G, there is no correlation on F, but there is a correlation on E. So it has detected E as a one more culprit. Now E has again the K and J. It will check it for K. There are no correlation. With the J, there is a correlation, and with the P, it will find it out. P is not calling any other service, and we found a correlation on P. That means that the culprit node can be a P. So it will basically, in our system, what we do is we get all the graphs latency or error graphs for all these services, and we print it into a one page, so that we dynamically create those particular graphs and we show it on the one report. So this is how it will be created. So now, one of the thing which we do is process to detect the anomaly. So now, one of them is basically, if you see the blue line is the current one, and the green line is basically a trend which is happening. This green line can be a prediction which we are doing from our different algorithms, like Arima or Holt-Winter, or maybe we are taking the average from last 3 days, 7 days of the same service, the latency or error, and we can find it out. So one of them is, we have taken the blue line, which is the current, and the green line, which is a trend. And if you see, there are red dots. These are the anomalies which got detected without any thresholding. So if you see this particular data, what is happening is, we are taking the last 6 hours of data. So let's say we are at a 7 a.m. here. So we are taking a data till the 1 a.m., which is the last 6 hours of data. Then if the anomaly is detected in last 30 minutes, so when we get all the anomaly points from that particular function, we check all these points are within the last 30 minutes. If they are in last 30 minutes, that means there is something is going on. So we check, and we start checking the data with all other services. So one of the service which we were using is they found that that particular service is giving the same error. There is a latency happening on that particular service. So it has given that particular service to us. So that detection is happened with the 30 minutes of data of the main service, and the last 30 minutes of data of the correlated service. With this particular one, few of the samples after implementing the anomaly. So I will go through these particular samples. So this is one of the samples. So if you see, there is an anomaly. This is one we have already shown you. This is another sample, anomaly sample, and it is a correlated series. So there was another service which is getting called by this particular service, and we got the correlation. This is one more sample. Again, you see the latency has increased and it has correlated with the another service. Then this is one of them. It has actually correlated with another service. So if you see the anomaly is just started and it has correlated again with the another service. This is again the one. What's the sample? So any questions? I'll just stop here and I would like to take the questions if any.
I'm checking out the chat, but I don't see any questions related to this session. There were few questions related to Vikas' session, and I guess those are answered.
Okay.
So I think you can go ahead. If there is anything, I'll let you know. Okay.
All right. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to go.
So now, with these particular anomalies, we have done. I mean, we implemented this one. We took the last 6 hours of data. We did with the 30 minutes of correlation, and we found those particular series. Everything was going good, but then with this one, we started getting a lot of false anomalies. I mean, those anomalies are correct as per the algorithm, but those anomalies are not necessary from the organization point of view or from the product point of view. Maybe the latency is small. I mean, there was a small increase in the latency or into an error. And we again took a step back saying, if we start getting the false anomaly, what we supposed to do? So there are few samples where we see the anomaly needs improvement. So this is the one, right? We saw anomaly over here, but this is a normal trend over here. So we don't want this as an anomaly. One more. This is another one. This is the one more sample, right? These are the anomalies which we see, and we don't want these as actually get detected or need to be alerted for us, because these for this one there is no action right now. We don't. I mean, we have. So what we should do? What we thought is, can we extract the features from these particular anomalies and give it back to the machine learning? Then what kind of features we can give? So to improve that anomaly detection via machine learning, look at the sample anomaly. Now this is one of again I'll just repeat this. The blue line is basically a current data, and the green line is basically a trend. Now the green line trend, you can have it from the Hot-Winter or ARIMA, different kind of time series prediction algorithms, or maybe directly average from last 3 days or 7 days, or uh, last 7 days of the same from the different 7 weeks, same day of a 7 week. You can have those particular trends. Now, if I start getting those particular anomalies, I can extract some features from that anomaly, right? This is one of the anomaly which we found. So what kind of features I can extract? So let's say I'll just zoom in this particular anomaly over here. I see some red dots, right? What kind of features I can have? Can I know the duration of this particular anomaly? Can I know what is the highest value in that particular one? What is the mean value in that particular one? What is the average value in that one? What is the difference between the anomaly which I am getting and what is the difference between the trend line in the same time? What kind of stuff I can take? So some of the list of the features which we took. So the alert duration, alert matrix mean value, alert matrix average value, alert matrix mode value, the number of anomalies. So number of anomalies. So how many red dots which are there. Then the time duration between the current time and the latest anomaly time. So the current time is this, and when this particular anomaly has happened. So we took that. The difference between the base data. So this is a trained data basically, and the current anomaly average value. The difference between the base data mean and the current anomaly mean value. So we took a lot of other features. And basically what we did was we push those features into a model. So I'm going to list down few features right now. So this is one of the model which we use. So for example, once we get the anomaly, this may be the alert name. This is the incident ID. I mean, for the one alert, there can be multiple incidents which can come, and there are datas which are available. I have not put all the data because it's going to be clutter over here. So I'm just going to put, I've already put few data over here. So duration, anomaly count, and the mean value, and the label. This label is basically a feedback which will be given by the team when the anomalies are coming. So few people will say yes, it is true. Few people will say false, and based on that, I have this particular complete data right now. But then, can I use this data for the ML? Yes, of course. So what we did was we used this particular data, and based on the how many true and how many false which are coming, we just put the alert confidence over there. Putting those particular one, we again push back to the machine learning model. So the model we tried is one is the basically a random forest, a decision tree random forest, and we got a confidence of a 70%. After that, we tried one of the another algorithm which is called XGBoost, and with that particular XGBoost, we got a confidence from 80 to 85%. That gives us a good amount of confidence towards this particular model, and we started using this one. So, any question till now? I'll go
Uh,
then I'll go to architecture.
Here, Rishikesh, there are a couple of questions. The first is, does ML takes Prometheus time series inputs?
No. So ML is not taking this particular Prometheus time series input. So what ML takes is this. So from the anomaly function, when we detect the anomaly, we basically now mine some of the data points from that particular series. For example, anomaly counts, average value, the difference between the trained value and the current value, anomaly value, and all these things we just mine that particular data, actually extract that particular data, and based on that we create our feature list. So we don't use it will not directly use the Prometheus as a time series value indirectly into ML.
Okay, there is one more question. How did you train this model? And before implementing on production, how do you test this changes with ML before implementing on production?
Okay, so it's not a, I mean, uh, how do we test?
So do you
Okay,
want me to
so
repeat a question?
no,
Okay,
I
okay.
got the question. Um Actually, what we did was we already had a current alerting system, which was we call it as a smart alerting system, where we took our approach towards the based on our organization, where we'll have all the products, business level, system level, service level, infra level alerts and all. But then with that particular one, we started adding these particular few alerts over there. So we never stopped our old alerts. So we don't want to become a completely dependent on the new system without any testing. So we started extracting those particular data. We started getting those particular anomalies. First, we didn't put the machine learning model in that particular one. So we took at least 2 months to get those particular anomalies. If it is a false, it's okay, but keep getting those particular anomalies. And as I mentioned, right, when we get those particular anomalies, we get a link on the Google Chat. So when we click on those particular links, it will show the anomaly which we got on the master service and all the correlated data. Once it shows that there are two buttons for with that particular anomaly for the feedback, whether is it true alert or the false alert. If whatever the feedback which goes back, goes back and it will just basically extract the data from that particular series and keep it into a database with all these particular details. And then that particular data again is ready for the training that particular model. So after 2 months, we again trained that particular model, and then we started finding out, we started evaluating that particular model, and we try to find out whether it is a true or the false. I mean, what is the confidence of that particular model which is coming, and then we move ahead with that.
Okay, Rishi, there are more questions flowing in. Do you want to take it now or end of the session?
Yes, I can take at least one now, then I can go back.
Okay, that is by Terence. Is asking what metrics do you use as in which event do you use as a source?
Which?
What metrics do you use as in which event do you use as a source? I'm guessing
Okay.
it's for the alerts.
Yeah. So basically, for this one, we are using the latency and the error. These are the two metrics we are using. So any service which is actually a consumer facing, or the services which has a consumer affected metrics. For example, the subscription, any kind of billing transaction, or maybe the state change of that particular user. Maybe these are the async processes, but then few processes which are directly connected with those particular users, where I can say our my viu.com, which is running on a particular service. That particular service has to respond back into a 300 ms, so that I'll have the anomaly detection on that particular service first. And when that particular service, any request comes on that particular service, that service is going to call some few services internally. So I'll make sure that those services are into a correlation every time. So if the anomaly found in the major master service, I'll do the correlation with the other services.
Okay, one more quick question. How do you detect
Yeah.
an alert is true or false? Is it done manually?
No, so again, so I'll repeat that particular answer is basically when we get that particular anomaly, we directly raise this into a GChat, and when we click on that particular link, it will just open one page. It is just showing all the details about the anomaly, and there is a manual intervention required before. And previously we used to have the manual intervention, but now since the we are started training that particular model, it will get decreased. But then manually somebody has to check and click on yes or I mean true or false. But then once the model is trained, you don't need to worry about this particular manual intervention.
Okay, thanks. I think there are more questions coming in, but I guess you can go ahead and we'll take it. We'll park that for now, and we'll take it later the session. Okay?
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is one of the last slide. How we are planning to build internally this particular anomaly architecture. So if you look at the Grafana and the Prometheus, these are the existing system right now we have. But we are actually using this particular system, and we have currently a small architecture for the anomaly. But we are going to make that particular stuff changes into a cloud. But then how this thing will work? First, there are schedulers which are going to hit the app engine, and then going to hit the cloud data store to get all the configuration of the anomaly. I mean, which particular alert rule I need to detect for the anomaly, which all are there. What is the train? What is the rule for the train? All these things it is going to take, and it is going to hit the Grafana, and then Grafana will hit the Prometheus and take the data. Then there is an anomaly detection cloud function which has all these algorithms, anomaly algorithms, which is going to respond back with the anomalies into a time series. Once it respond back, it will be sent to the AutoML, and AutoML will give back the confidence of that particular alert. If that particular process is into a training mode, then it will just it will just push that particular data into a BigQuery and raise the alert into a Google Chat. So now whatever the alerts which has been created, it will just extract all the data and push it first to the BigQuery and push all the data to the Google Chat. Now, from the Google Chat, if somebody get that particular link, they will click on that particular link, and they will see that there is a anomaly admin UI, and true and false, all these particular details you will get it. And then once you give the feedback, it will just call one of the cloud function. It will just take some data from the cloud store, so to get some of the config, mapping config and all, and it will send back flags, feedback flags to the cloud storage, cloud store. Now, and of course, it will send that particular back data to the BigQuery. Now, once it is done, then there is another process which is a training process which is running every time. It will run every time from the every 6 hours. So that particular process will take that particular data. It will call the cloud function. It will call that particular feedback flag. It will take that particular feedback flag, and it will call the BigQuery. It will take the complete data of this particular anomaly and push it to a cloud storage. So it will create one file and push it to the cloud storage, and then it will call the AutoML. That AutoML will take the complete data from the cloud storage and train that particular model. And once the model is trained, it will just keep it as with that particular AutoML as a service. And then whenever the new anomaly is coming, it is just going to call this particular functionality again. So it may looks like a little bit complex where there are a lot of elements which has been kept. There are no persistent stuff which has been added. But then if you look at the costing for the anomaly with this particular model is not going more than $100 a month. If you have 100 anomalies, if you want to run with 100 anomalies every 5 minutes with at least with the 10 correlated services, if you have, then also this particular architecture will not take more than $100 a month. So that's why it's a little bit complex, a little bit vast, but then this is how we have created this particular one. Apart from the Grafana and Prometheus, because Grafana and Prometheus was already part of our organization, but then including the anomalies architecture for that one, this particular one, uh, we have created this particular architecture. And for that one, if you are talking about the spending on the Google infra for this one, is very less. That's it. This is my last slide. I'm ready to take the questions.
Thanks, Rishikesh. There are more few questions. There is one question: what if the trend shifts slowly over the period of few hours? Example, memory usage keeps on increasing slowly for last 10 hours, and then uh, there won't be any spikes. Any idea on how to deal with these cases? So Rishikesh, I have
Okay.
already posted questions on Zoom chat if you want to read it.
No, I got your question.
Okay.
So okay. So one of the thing you are saying that the if the time series data is increasing slowly, how can we find it out? I'm not sure how to deal with that one, but then how to deal with that one with the anomaly. But then there are few other mechanisms which are available called dynamic thresholding. So with that particular dynamic thresholding, you can have a 10%, 20% up and down with that particular current trend value. And if that value changes, is started changing highly, then you can have the alert. But definitely from the anomaly side, you will not be able to detect this particular stuff.
So on similar lines, there is a question on threshold value. It says, uh, is there any threshold value we set for alert confidence, and how to get this alert confidence?
Okay, so alert confidence is between the 0 and 1 with this particular functionality. So before that, there is one library which is available for this particular anomaly is the Luminol. Luminol is the library which was released by LinkedIn, which is available for this particular anomaly detection uh, and correlations and everything. Not with the machine learning. Machine learning is the part which we implemented. So the uh, sorry, can I ask this? What was the question?
Is there any threshold value set
Yeah,
for alert confidence, and
yeah.
how to
So
use that or
basically,
how to get
yeah,
that alert confidence? Yeah.
yes, yes. So what we did was based on our experience, we set a value with a 7, a point 7 as a alert as a alert confidence value. It's all based on what kind of sensitivity your product has. Uh, So right now the 0.7 was the alert constant which we added. But then with that one also we started getting a lot of false alerts, right? So within the 0.7 and the 1, with that particular one also we started putting that particular data into ML, and we again started training that particular model. Hello.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't see any more questions coming in. So thanks a lot, Rishikesh, for a great session.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
So I
you.
see a few queries about the video quality or slide quality. I think the slides and the video is good. You just need to check your YouTube video quality. If it's auto and the network is not good, it will fall down. So currently we support till 720p and it looks pretty good. So that shouldn't be an
Okay.
issue. Okay, just
Okay.
for all the joinees. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So our next speaker is Suman Chakraborty. He's a senior DevOps engineer at SAP Labs.